All right. Welcome to another edition of Sabbath Lounge. This is Matt.
And Jake here.
We're coming before you with another Talking Torah.
Talking Torah
with Sabbath Lounge, and we appreciate you stopping by. And we are going through every week. We're kind of behind, but eventually we'll be caught up. So
Eventually.
So maybe.
Well on our way.
So this one happens to be week 8.
Week 8, Vayishlach.
Yes.
I think that's right.
Sounds
Nailed
right
it.
To me. Nailed it. And it means he sent. So who's the he? He who?
He be sending out. He sent. Yeah.
Who's he? Who's sending?
Yahweh sending?
I don't know. So that sometimes I look at these and I'm like, I'm not sure I understand what it means, but
someone is being sent
good
somewhere.
Question. So Jacob does go.
Yeah.
We're still talking about Jacob and his name being changed and wrestling with some kind of deity. So we'll just jump right into it. So you get this. So if you've studied the Bible very long, we all see this pattern that the same things that the fathers do, the children do.
Right.
And so they have this whole long line of Abraham and saying, she's my sister. And then they all say it.
Yeah. They did not learn.
No.
It's the carrying on of the sins of the father kind of situation, I think.
And the whole polygamy thing, keep bringing wives into this, and it makes it real messy.
Yeah.
Real complicated. So, but anyway, you see this pattern from Abraham onto his grandsons, and just like your family, we all have families that have patterns in them, good or bad.
Yeah.
And to me, that's part of what this story says.
Yeah. We definitely get that out of it.
Yeah. Chip off the old block is what they used to say.
That's right.
In fact, my grandma used to call me Chip. And I was just like, I'm real confused. My name's not Chip.
Don't worry. I'm just offending you.
So there's an interesting comparison here. Jacob is like Yeshua.
Why don't you tell me how that is, Matt?
All right. Well, they both were alone in the garden. Mm-hmm. And so, Yeshua is alone in the garden. Now, Esau, was he alone in the garden? Does it say garden?
Esau?
I mean, Jacob.
Jacob? I don't know if it uses the term garden.
I don't think it does garden, but he's outside.
He is outside.
He's not in a church building.
Yeah.
He's not in a sanctuary. He's not in a temple. And he's outside, and that technically is like a garden.
Yeah, he kind of sends his people ahead and kind of hangs out by himself, like Yeshua did many times.
Yes, he's definitely alone, and he's in distress. It doesn't say that he was in distress, that he's praying, sweat, drops of blood are forming. It doesn't say that, but he's definitely stressed out. Why is he stressed out?
Because he's afraid that Esau is going to smote him.
Yes, he's afraid of being smoted.
Yeah.
Smoted?
Smoten. I think it's smoten.
Smoten.
Yeah.
And so he's facing an enemy, an enemy that is... Why do you think it's certain death for him?
Well, because Esau was a manly man, and Jacob had gained the ire of him.
What does ire mean?
Esau was angry with him. And Esau was rough and tumble, and no way Jacob was going to stop him from killing him if he wanted to. So, So like you're saying here, he's facing certain death.
Yeah, he was pretty positive that this was not going to end well.
Right.
And I think he's, in essence, praying that this could pass from him, that this cup of suffering that he thought he was going to have to dwell, he was praying, that this wouldn't happen. And so he definitely gets met with a deity. We'll talk a little bit about that. But he wrestles with God, if you will. And at the end, when the two parties meet, there's a kiss. Just like a Judas kiss.
Yeah.
And so I think there are a lot of similarities between Jacob being like Yeshua and I don't know anything else.
Yeah, no, those are real interesting.
Mm-hmm. So definitely things, sometimes we just throw some things out. We don't necessarily go into depth, but that's something you should check out and think about it when you read through the scripture.
Right. So. This whole series is at high level. Okay. So
yes.
Just hitting the highlights.
Just trying to hit the highlights. So would you read Matthew 26? It kind of ties back to this garden story. I may have to move us around.
So then came Yeshua with them unto a place called Gethsemane, and said to the disciples, Sit you here while I go and pray. And he took with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, and began to be sorrowful and very heavy. Then he said to them, My soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even unto death. Tarry you here and watch with me. And he went a little further and fell on his face and prayed, saying, O my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will. And he came to his disciples and found them asleep, and said to Peter, What could you not watch with me for an hour? Watch and pray that you enter not into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. He went away again the second time and prayed, saying, O my Father, if this cup may not pass from me, except I drink it, thy will be done.
And he came and found them asleep again, for their eyes were heavy. And he left them, and he went away again, and he prayed a third time, saying the same words. He cometh to his disciples and said to them, Sleep on now, and take your rest. Behold, the hour is at hand. The Son of Man is betrayed at the hands of sinners. Rise, let us be going. Behold, he's at the hand that doth betray me. And while yet he spoke, Judas, one of the 12, came to him with a great multitude with swords and staves. What's a stave?
Like a
big stick.
Plural for staff.
Staff. Oh. From the chief priests and elders and the people, and he betrayed him and gave him a sign, saying, Whomsoever I shall kiss, that same is he. Hold him fast. And forthwith he came to Yeshua and said, Hail, Master, and kissed him. So we definitely have the kiss in the Enoch account as well. So,
yeah,
but a similar moment. You know, it's a dividing line for Jacob. This is potentially a life. You know, when you're facing death, just like Yeshua facing death, it's a life altering moment, and you're gonna be distressed about this.
Yeah,
it's only human.
Yeah.
So,
and where else do we see this kiss, Matt?
The
mafia.
The mafia, yes. Yes, I see it runs deep in your family. Too far. Too much information. And there's all kinds of weird things about the Esau kiss. And so just be careful when you study that, because it can go down some weird rabbit holes. I don't know if you've ever looked at it, but it can be weird.
Not in depth.
It can be weird. Some people say it was like a bite, and it just like goes down a cliff that I'm like, I think it was a greeting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think it was anything other than just like this. It was
right.
It was something we don't really do in the United States.
Yeah.
So I did tell my wife that during Corona I would stop hugging and kissing everybody I meet. But she liked that.
That's good. Yeah.
But she was like, you shouldn't be doing that. Don't worry, I'm not.
So, we can't know.
No, we can't. But definitely with Corona, it's probably not recommended to go kiss people that you don't know. Probably not. You haven't seen in a while.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yes. This was before Corona.
Oh, we might be getting into that later.
Oh, maybe.
The whole kissing people you don't, that might not want you to kiss them.
Yes, we will.
That's in this section,
So this wrestling occurs, and Jacob's name becomes Israel. We just discussed, why do we not ever refer to him as Israel? Most of us always call him Jacob.
And we decided that it's because it gets confusing, because Israel is used to describe so many things. It's used for the nation, it's used for the kingdom, it's used for both kingdoms, it's used for Yeshua. And it's used for Jacob.
The modern political state.
Yeah.
So if you did that, people would be like, what do you mean?
Define your terms, sir.
And so who does he wrestle with? What is this? Do you think the picture I chose is accurate? I think that's a historical painting that's out in the public domain.
I think that is exactly what it looked like.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Probably not close, but it is strange. I mean, it depends on the translation you read. I think some places it says he wrestled with God. Some places, I mean, that's the point of the name, right? Is one who wrestles with God, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then some would say it's an angel.
Yeah.
Some translations say it's a man.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. And I think you can make an argument every time you see this human in flesh form that it's Yah's mighty right hand, which would be Yeshua. And I think it's interesting though. Jacob was, we think, this to me rules out any of you that want to say he's a mama's boy and that he's a little mamby-pamsy mama's boy that knew how to cook and clean because he made some soup one time. But he doesn't even really make it because his mother says, "Bring me the stuff and I'll make it."
yeah.
So that
he made pottage, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I've never tasted pottage myself, but
yeah, I hear it's delicious.
Well, it seems one would give his firstborn blessing
yes,
for that.
Apparently. But this shows that he's not a weakling, as some people teach, because he wrestled with whatever this deity is all night. That's impressive.
Yeah.
And the only way this deity wins, it's like, okay, clearly,
I gotta stop this guy.
yeah, clearly he is overpowered. He could end it at any moment when the fact that he just reaches over and is like, and then he limps the rest of his life.
Yeah.
So that was significant.
Right.
So, which is interesting. I've always thought that it's one of these deals where maybe Jacob wrestles with God because he had to be humbled, and he wanted him every step he took to be reminded that this experience happened to him. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because it shows that. So he's afraid to go up to Esau, but he's not afraid to wrestle this being here, and I think it just shows that he's willing to fight for what he knows is right, and for the right things. He's willing to fight for the right cause, I think, and this is an example of that.
Yeah, that's great, and I think it's a testing too. Yahuwah is testing him to go, is this guy really ready? Is he the guy? We're going to find out. We'll go down there and check him out a little bit. So, it's one of those things too. A lot of times we resist. We don't like being refined and tested. And a lot of times when we are refined and tested, we come out different. We don't walk the same after we've been tested. I think there's just so many lessons in that and how it applies to us every day.
Yeah, definitely. And the whole, of course, we wrestle with God every day in our attempt to figure out, truth and gain understanding. It is a wrestling that you're doing.
Just trying to do what we want to do. That's the battle. I mean, that's what we just want to do what we want to do many times. Just like he did. So you get this concept too in 32:10 about the two nations. So he divides his camp, and basically is a foreshadowing to a divided kingdom. And then you also have this whole thing about the Edomites, which Esau is an Edomite. Later on, we see Herod, who's an Edomite and who's not a legitimate priest. And so that's something you should study, because a lot of people believe John the Baptist was the true high priest at the time of Yeshua, and that Herod had the whole line of the Edomites had usurped that. And that also was how Esau maybe got the revenge against Jacob a little bit. So I don't know. But what were your thoughts? You said something really good about the divided kingdom here earlier.
Oh, yeah. Just
32:10.
Yeah. Let me pull it up here real quick. But 32:10, it says, I'm not worthy of the least of all the mercies and all the truth. So this is Jacob praying to Yahweh, and all the truth which you have shown unto your servant. For with my staff I passed over this Jordan, and now I am become two bands. So 2 bands, 2 nations. He let the rest
like
of his
Guns
group.
N' Roses and Poison.
No, it's not like that.
That's a terrible example, by the way.
Yes, not those kind of bands. Okay. But so he lets his family and stuff go ahead of him, and he stays back, and so they're separated. And this after they cross over the Jordan, just like when Israel crosses over the Jordan after leaving Egypt and take possession of the land. They divide into 2 kingdoms, and now this is what happens here.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think that's interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely interesting. And, I've always looked at it as he divides up, and there's definitely a connection between the children that come from the wife he really loves, who didn't have weak eyes, and then Leah, and he kind of separates them. If these guys go, it's okay. I'm gonna send them the first wave,
right,
and then I'm gonna hold back my special treasure back here towards the end, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah,
it just shows you a little bit about Jacob and how he thought about this lineage. That's the only thing I've ever assumed, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But it does appear that to me that this favoritism shows up there.
Yeah.
And so then we have the very interesting, if not weird and creepy and puzzling story of Dana raped by Hamor.
Right. It's just kind of thrown in there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important because it's like, why are we talking about this? How did this come up?
Yeah.
It seems out of place, but I mean, it's in there. So, was Dinah indeed raped by Hamor?
If you almost every Bible that you look at, it's going to say that. It's going to give you that subheading. But I do think it's possible that that's not what happened here. Because, when you read it in context, you see someone who is madly in love. And yes, people who are madly in love, I guess, can rape others. But genuinely, that's not how the raping thing works.
Right.
For the most part.
Yeah. And so we get the idea that she's defiled, right? Which, sure. But does that mean rape? I think when I read through this, I get the impression that she, like you're saying here, she goes out, she learns the ways of the worldly women.
Well,
it kind of implies that kind of a situation. And you might say, and it comes back at the end of the chapter, where they're like, will it be said that she's a harlot? So she goes out away from her father's covering, which she should be under, and does this deed with Hamor. And immediately Hamor's like, I love this girl, and I'm going to go talk to her father so we can get married.
He does seem to be about making it right, which is not often what you find in the story of people who go rape other people. That's usually not part of their character.
Right. So he wasn't looking to run away and hide this thing. He was looking to, make it right, like you're saying. And he goes to Jacob, and they kind of work out a deal, it seems. And then Levi and Simeon aren't happy with that.
Yeah, they don't take it well. But, and then you've got this whole weird thing. Did she have daddy issues? Yeah. Did she run away? That's another possibility. We don't really think about these stories sometimes like that, but I think we've got to put human flesh on these stories. And, she does come from the mother who was less loved, if you will. And, could she have felt like she was less loved by the grandfather, was it the grandfather?
By Jacob as well, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so it does make you think, no, not grandfather, her father.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it does make you think she could have had issues with that. And that to me, the scripture does imply that she goes out and does something. She goes and explores the world,
ways of women,
something.
Yeah.
So checking it out, and probably something she wasn't supposed to do, and it doesn't imply that she had her father's permission, and then she gets into trouble basically and has to be rescued to a certain extent.
Right.
And so her name, by the way, means judgment, which is interesting.
And why is that important, Matt?
Well, I think you talked about this, about how one thing that it does is that when the brothers disagree, I believe they undermine their father's authority to a certain extent. They go kind of against him.
Yeah, it's Jacob's household, and when he makes a decision, that should follow. So I'm just thinking now, I wonder if that falls into the sons that are not obedient. kind of situation.
It does seem like it. It does seem like it. And so in their actions definitely affected his role in the land. The way people saw them is different. I mean, because this is bad trickery here, where it's like, hey boys, sharpen your knives, you're gonna get circumcised. And as they're laying around going, oh, I wish I had an ice pack right now. That's when they show up again and kill them.
Yeah.
And so people heard about this. People heard, hey, do you mess with them and they're gonna trick you. I mean, it did not make things easy for them as they conquer the land later. These stories got told. But where you're going
don't stain the family name.
Yes, don't stain it. So she could be the church, the bride, the harlot. I think it's kind of an interesting study, definitely considering her name means judgment. Mm-hmm. Could it be end-time judgment? And basically you see this story of the oppressors of the bride are judged as she's rescued, and that judgment was from the high priest, because Levi for sure represents the Levitical priesthood. Mm-hmm. And so, if he's the first guy and the priesthood's kind of in his lineage, it makes sense that he would be considered the high priest of that lineage.
Yeah.
So I
think the theme is definitely there.
Yeah. So when he goes and takes vengeance, and there is bloodshed, which makes you think about end times judgment and Yeshua coming back to rescue the bride from its harlotry and pull it back. And there's definitely going to be bloodshed for the people at that point that have oppressed the bride. But, that's a whole nother discussion, but it's definitely something to pursue.
Yeah. So when Yeshua returns, he will lay waste to all the things that have defiled the bride.
Yeah. And the bride will have to present herself and clean up a little bit here.
Yeah.
So
get clean.
Get clean. That's right. So in Genesis 28:10, we'll talk about this for a second.
And Jacob vowed a vow, saying, if Elohim will be with me and will keep me in this way that I go, and will give me bread to eat and clothes to put on, then then it goes on to say, then he will be my Elohim and I will be his servant. And so the point here is we see this kind of coming to fruition in this week's Torah portion, mm-hmm. where he tells them in chapter 35, he tells them how to, he goes, go to Bethel and then get rid of all your idols. Mm-hmm. And
we have that.
Yeah, this is the next one, I think.
No,
go back. Go back, man.
Oh, right there.
Move us. All right. Yeah, and he tells him to get rid of his strange gods, right? That were, like we see when Rachel and Laban comes to get them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he says, and so he's doing this, and this is when Yah becomes his Elohim and he becomes his servant, basically, and his name is changed to Israel.
And what were you saying about the pierced ear?
Yeah, so here in 35 verse 4 it says, and they gave unto Jacob all the strange gods that were in their hand, and all their earrings which were in their ears, and Jacob hid them under the oak, which was by Shechem.
And by the way, we wanted to show you the Shechem where this is. This is Ebal and Gerizim, right. Blessings and curses. And so see our teaching on blessings and curses where we kind of go into, but this is definitely a significant place where this happens.
Right. So this is, yeah. So we were talking about, well, why the earrings? And you had made the point of the earrings and ears is usually what they hear and what they're acknowledging as mm-hmm. truth, basically. And also it's the, you pierce the ear of the slave that wants to remain with you
after
right?
7 years. You pierce your ear. Yeah.
And so I think in some of the Psalms it talks about pierce my ear mm-hmm. and I will, and so here it's the earring of the pierced ear of the strange god that they've enslaved themselves to, and that's what he's getting rid of.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. That's one of those little scriptures you can easily look over, but it's significant.
Yeah.
And definitely something that more than meets the eye. So And you see Jacob making another conditional promise. He seems to like to do this. He did it with the sheep, and he did it, with the scripture we just read about, hey, if you feed me and give me clothes, I'm your guy.
Yeah.
So which is kind of weird. It's like, really? Yeah, but, I don't know. And you see the covenant gets confirmed again. Benjamin is born, and now this family's got 12 children.
12 sons.
12 sons.
And Dinah.
Later, we see Benjamin and Joseph become Ephraim and Manasseh, and arguing 13.
Right.
So, anyway. And so that's a whole interesting thing. Study that, and then look at Judas, his 12 apostles that actually become 13 with Matthias. So, it's all kind of interesting. It seems to be connected because
no connection.
It is.
There's zero connection.
So, is there anything else from week 8, Genesis 32, 3 through 36, 43?
No, I think that's, that's enough to get people started.
Yep. And so that's our goal here. We just kind of want you to get your whistle wet a little bit and
maybe think of some things you hadn't thought of before. But
yep. Yeah, go research it, check it out, read it. For crying out loud, read what it says.
Yeah.
So we just can't encourage people to do that enough. And we know that if you're listening to us, you probably do that.
Yeah.
So we ask that you would share it with someone who might need to read this. And maybe there's some things there that would cause some interest and make them want to read. So, but we do appreciate your time. Your time is very valuable, and we appreciate you spending your time with us. And I think that's it for now.
And that is week 8, Talking Torah with Sabbath Lounge.
All right. Thank you for being here. Signing out. Bye.
See ya.